The purpose of this video is to talk a little bit about progress reports, what they are, when we do them, who does them, where we put them, and why we do them. So federal law and New Mexico regulations state that the progress of students with exceptionalities must be reported to parents at least as often as their peers without exceptionalities, and more often if needed. And that's determined by the IEP team. And also, the IEP will list how that progress will be reported to the parents and when. A progress report for a student with an exceptionality must be based on the annual goals or objectives as set forth in the student's IEP. So if a student has more than one annual goal, well, each goal and objective is going to need to have its own progress report. Now, sometimes we have service providers who will work together on a particular goal, and they can condense their progress report into just one progress report for the parent. For our students who take the alternate assessment, they have objectives and benchmarks inside their annual goals, and they need to be addressed as well. Special programs already prompts us to do this, but don't forget we need to put in the date and the method that the student's progress was evaluated. So who writes these anyway? Well, it's going to be our related service providers, our ancillary staff. It's going to be our teachers of the gifted students as well, and are going to be our teachers for students with disabilities. And chances are they're going to reach out to other teachers, to other staff to come up with some of this information as well. So let's go to PowerSchool Special Programs and see how it's done. So here we are in PowerSchool Special Programs, and we are on test student number 8. And we're on the first page of his IEP, or her IEP, and it's the student demographics page. So your first step is to go to the flyout, and you're going to reveal all the pages in the IEP. And so when you do progress reports, you want to go all the way down to the bottom where it says progress report and click on progress report. So here we are on the progress report page. So let me show you a little bit around this progress report. So some progress reports will only have one goal, but most progress reports will have more than one goal. And in order to toggle between the goals, you'll want to go up to this area right here, click on this little down arrow, and that's going to show you all of the goals that this particular student has. So to go to the next page, you simply click on, and that'll take you to the next page. Pretty easy. Now you need to edit as well. And so to do, the first thing you do is to click on edit this section. And you can see over here you have your present levels of achievement and your parent input, and then you have your Common Core references. And down here is your goal area. So let's zoom in and read the goal. In this particular goal, it says in a minimum of 4 discrete trials, David will be able to read 125 words per minute while making no more than 2 errors on texts that are SEIL level 650 or higher by 11/16/2022 as measured by assessments. So the progress documentation, right here you can see, right here we have the date. You can click on the calendar icon in order to get you the date. So I'm just putting in today's date. And then the progress documentation. And it says on this one, on the last 3 trials, David has averaged 105 words per minute while making 3 mistakes at texts at SEIL level 650. And our next steps is to continue with direct instruction, 30 minutes per school day to work towards goal mastery. So let's say you wanted to put another one in here. You would click on this plus button, and that's going to go ahead and put in extra rows. You can do as many of these as you want, or you need, rather. But if you found that you put way too many and got a little click happy, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is click on this X, and it'll take them straight out. Just be careful, don't delete the one that you already have. But I want to show you some other things as well. You have this microphone, and if you enable your computer, typing will now be a thing of the past, and all you have to do is speak, and you should be able to insert it straight in there. And look at that. Of course, this is not appropriate. So if you want to go old school, you can simply type as well. So let's go ahead and click on X and get rid of that because that's not really appropriate. And right here you can see that how are we going to notify the parents, and right now we're doing through email, and how often, and that's trimester. And just remember back that we have to provide our progress reports at least as often as we send home report cards for any child who doesn't have a disability. And so in this case it is trimesterly, but the IEP team can decide to do it more often. So when you're done here, you click on Save Done Editing. And you could go ahead and go to the next one. And you can see that we have present levels over here. And this goal, which is when in a classroom setting, Jonah will be able to move from being on task 40% of the time in observed intervals to being on task 70% or more of the time of observed intervals, as determined by staff observation and data collection during these observed intervals. And you can see right here that we have the social worker and the special education teacher, and they're working on this goal together, which is great. And you will also notice that we only have one goal, so we don't need to have two separate reports. We can have just one progress documentation, but the social worker and the special education teacher would work in collaboration to put this information in. And then when you're done, you do Save Done Editing, but you also have to give it to the parents. And so most people will go to print, and they can choose either this one or all of them. And you can either print it or you can save it as a PDF, which right now mine says to do. And it's going to go ahead and save it, and then I can send it in an email. So hopefully this was helpful, and you understand a little bit more about how to do progress reports in PowerSchool special programs. So when report cards come out, or if the IEP team decides to do it sooner. Why? So we know if what we're doing, if it's working. Progress monitoring helps us decide if what we're doing is effective. Don't forget that narrative comment. So include that suggestion in there, these next steps for success, because that builds a bridge between what's happening now and something concrete to focus on as we look ahead. So some examples are to increase class participation, ask for help more often, participate more with peers, complete homework, and then practice a skill in the everyday world. So let's recap. Federal law and New Mexico regulations state that the progress of students with exceptionalities must be reported to parents at least as often as their peers without exceptionalities, or more often if needed. The IEP team will list how that progress will be reported to parents and when, and then the following should be kept in mind regarding content and scope of progress reporting. Number 1, progress report for a student with an exceptionality must be based on the annual goals set forth in the student's IEP. If a student has more than one annual goal, a separate progress report is required for each annual goal. And we saw that in PowerSchool special programs. If more than one service provider is implementing a single goal, then those sharing the responsibility for the goal and service may combine their evaluation on a single report. Number 3, for each student taking the alternate assessment, each objective or benchmark within that annual goal must also be individually addressed. Number 4, for each reporting period, the service provider must record and report the date and give their assessment of the student's progress on the objective or benchmark and by the method the student's progress was evaluated. And the service provider can elaborate in this narrative comment as well. And then to always include those next steps for success. All right, so this is progress reports. I hope you found this helpful and that you have an absolutely wonderful day.